Okay, and we're live. Hi, everybody. So nice to see you. I am here with Arbana. Hi, Arbana. How are you?
Hi, Jessica. I'm fine. Thank you. Hope you're doing okay as well.
I am. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited because we're launching a new series. It's called UoPeople Wellness Talks, and we're basically interviewing students within UoPeople who are in the wellness field. So I'm so excited to interview you, Arbana, and launch the series because you have a great experience. Um, why don't you? So, first of all, thank you, Arbana, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And to our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. I also really appreciate it. I encourage our viewers to ask questions, whether they're questions for Arbana. She's going to be covering kind of wellness and stress relief techniques. If you have any questions for Arbana, please feel free to ask them in the comments. But also, if you have questions about University of the People in general, you can also feel free to ask those questions. So I see people are logging on. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Also, I'd love to hear from our students or our viewers where you're from and what you're studying. So feel free to engage. Okay. So first off, Arbana, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Thank you, Jessica. First of all, I want to thank you for making me part of this initiation of wellness talks. And I am very grateful that the University of the People as an educational institution is also offering opportunities to learn more about how to take care of our mental health. So this is a very, very meaningful opportunity. And for me as a psychologist, also to share some of my perspectives and also experiences in this regard. As you said, my name is Arbana Basholi. I live in North Macedonia. It is a small town called Dibur. I am a psychologist. I'm a student at the University of the People. I am attending Master of Education in Advanced Teaching, and I'm a student for 2 years now, since I'm taking it part-time because I work full-time as a school psychologist. At this moment, I'm serving as an MP, member of the parliament in the Assembly of North Macedonia. And I also have a family. I have two boys, 12 and 10, that I need to take care of. So it is quite some engaging, but I appreciate my experience with the University of the People because, as I will discuss later on, it has been a life-changing experience.
Okay.
So this is as for the beginning.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Arbana. That was a great introduction, and I'm very impressed by your background. And with that being said, as a school psychologist, meant I can't imagine the type of stress that our students, your students, students everywhere are facing today. Can you please tell me what the main stressors that cause students to suffer from anxiety are?
Yes. I work in a high school in secondary education, and I mostly work with students aged 14 to 18 years old. And one of the reasons why I enrolled for the Masters of Education in Advanced Teaching at the University of the People was this reason, that I wanted to figure out more how to help teachers, but also students, with the innovative strategies and mechanisms in regard to teaching and being set in the 21st century. But In regard to your question, I think that the high school environment is one of the most stressful environment for students. This is the time that students are already confused because of their age and because they're, of course, their adolescent development. But in regard to other socioeconomic factors, students also experience stress in different forms and interpret it in different forms. In regard to stressors, this can be internal or external factors. Internals means the way they feel and how they express it, and externals are, let's say, financial issues that their families might have, often relationship issues that they get involved in these years. Some of them work, and this is an additional stressful factor because it's hard for them to keep up between the work and the school life. There are also peer pressure, which is a very, very, let's say, difficult factor, and a source for bullying in schools. So, in my experience, bullying is one of the most difficult resources to manage in high school settings, and it needs a lot of work, not only from teachers but also parents' involvement, and of course then students' active participation in solving these issues.
Wow, yeah, the bullying is something I really can't understand. um, Also, I feel like bullying is talked about more now because of social media, and it's more of an issue. When I was young, nobody was talking about bullying like they do today, and I'm
Um,
sure you can relate.
well, it is like making that distinction between um, when it's funny for you and when someone else is making fun of you.
Right.
So as soon as we laugh both, it's okay. But as soon as one of us is feeling uncomfortable, that is not okay. So this is what we try to teach in our school, at least from my experience, that that students need to be careful of how they treat others, and treating others with respect is always it helps in building strong relationships that are based in trust, because respect is the main ethical value that builds a healthy relationship. So we do a lot in this context, but I hope you will have other questions. So if you want,
Yeah,
we can
yeah,
continue with
definitely,
this topic. So,
definitely. Yeah, sorry, I diverted a little bit about the bullying. That's a great segue into uh, let's talk about stress and tips. Do you have any tips on dealing with ways to manage stress? I think we all experience stress from time to time, day to day, hour to hour.
yes, yes.
Maybe you can go over some stress management tips.
This is a very broad topic, and I'm glad that it was said that those will be wellness talks, and that there will be more than one talk about this topic. Um, Stress is becoming a word that we use very frequently in our everyday verbal communication. And sometimes I'm scared if I should be happy that we are getting, let's say, we are getting to know the word, and in this regard, raise awareness of what to do in regard to stress, or if I should feel scared that so many people are experiencing stress and using it in their everyday communication. But either way, um, it is something that we all experience, and it depends on how we react to stress. Stress, in my understanding, is how we respond to things that are out of control and that we cannot control at the moment. And uh, how tips about how to manage stress. Well, I can give some personal, let's say, examples. I have to say that even though I'm a psychologist, I'm suffering from irritable bowel syndrome. That is one of the most common diseases in regard, and it has the source. One of the sources is stress of this disease. So often people say that how can you, being a psychologist, have a syndrome or have a disease that has to do with mental health? uh, there are no people immune to when it comes to dealing with stressful issues or factors. But it is very important, and this is one of the tips I want to give to everybody listening, to talk about your issues. When we are open and talk about how we feel, we might help somebody else that is not able at the moment to be open about it. And talking about mental health should be something that we all share, because it is something that we really share, but we might not be at that moment, let's say, conscious about it. And when people know the disease that I suffer from, they will have understanding if in a moment I'm not in the mood to talk with them, or if I respond in a way that they're not used to it. So this is the way we build communication with people suffering, let's say, from anxiety, which is the most common response to stress. I used to do gardening, and I built some very beautiful gardens with flowers. I One time I used to also keep onions and tomatoes, and this was the most beautiful thing of it, was that I started from scratch. I knew nothing about how to plant, and I needed to read, I needed to practice, and I had the chance to do this with my children as well. So this was an opportunity for quality time with my children as well, while I was taking care of myself as well. Another thing is meditation and yoga. And this is also shared time with my children as well, because they are in an age, and I'm suffering from this disease for about 8 years now. So they were in an age that they really needed my attention. So sharing quality time with them was very meaningful to me. And yoga not only helps for you to stretch your body, and also some kind of like, let's say, to use it so you can look also good, let's say in regard to physical appearance. But it really, if you start and study it, there are some yoga poses that really can help to feel better physically in regard to your health, not only your physical health, not only your mental health. Another thing is music. I love music, and I cannot do anything without music, and it relaxes me. And I know that a lot of people feel good when they are accompanied by music. Um, Another thing is, stay close to people that you trust in small circles, to people that encourage you, to people that understand you. This does not mean that you need to exclude people, but when you feel low and you don't feel like you need to open up with people that, let's say, are not very close to you, keep in mind to talk to people that you really feel comfortable, because when you feel stressed or anxious, you don't need to feel somebody to keep you a lesson, or to be judged, or to tell you what to do. You just need to be heard. And in this regard, a very useful tip I will give is that maybe people that are following should follow. There is an online platform called Seven Cups. I have here a link I can share. And there are people from all over the world, and that offer, let's say, free listening. and it's all anonymous. So everybody has how to
Like,
their fiction names, yeah.
yeah.
So you can choose with whom to talk, and this is not a counseling. This is only those people that serve there as verified listener, and I am one of them.
Oh,
Yes, they are there only to listen to you, and they are trained to listen to you. So I think that is a very useful thing to do.
wow, yeah. And Rebecca asked 7 cups. It is 7 cups, right? We'll we'll
I
put we'll put a link in also at the end.
I can
Um,
send it now, so you can.
yeah, if you can access it, that would be great. If not, we'll just put it at the end, no worries. Okay, I love your tips. I relate to many of those tips as well, as I like meditation and yoga and music also. I'm just curious, maybe you can talk about some of the physical signs that happen because of stress. You mentioned, that you have IBS. What other, physical signs are there? How can we recognize if someone is suffering from anxiety, and how can we help them? Because, let's
Yeah.
face it, they're not easy times that we're in right now.
Well, when I used to be at work, because right now I'm doing another service. I used to do this workshop on stress and test anxiety. And before I started the workshop, I used to give a survey to the students, and I have listed all the symptoms, because when you feel anxious, there are a couple of symptoms that you might feel, and they are grouped in physical, emotional, behavioral, and cognitive symptoms. And all the students, before they knew the topic that we were going to treat, identified most of the symptoms that they have experienced them at least once during their school life. And in regard to physical symptoms, there's very often happening like stomach pain or muscle pain, exhaustion, sweaty palms, um, heartbeat, and a heart that it feels like it's racing. Sometimes you may feel like you choke, and it's like something is keeping your breath. Uh, Difficulty breathing. What else? If I forgot anything, you might have, let's say, blood pressure issues, weak immune system, and I hope I did not, digestive problems, and so on. Those are the physical symptoms. Um, and very often, for those that have worked with students, if you have a test the next day, there are few students that might say, I had stomach pain, that's why I did not came, or I did not take the test. And this has happened with my children as well. When they feel anxious, the first symptom they feel is stomach pain.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it happens very often. And also sweaty palms and heartbeat, a very frequent heartbeat. What can we do? The Let's say the first thing that you can do is practice your breathing in regard to manage anxiety. But this is something you need to practice, because often at school happens that a lot of students experience panic attacks. And it seems like you have lost them, because it feels like they're very exhausted. They cannot make eye contact. They're Let's say they cannot manage their limbs, uh, and very often also other students that see that scene when a student is experiencing a panic attack are very anxious as well, because of the health of their peer. So in that moment, and this is from my experience, because many times we have called 911, and once a student said, please don't call 911. All I need is to rest. And I was afraid, because this was a big responsibility to take in my hands and not call 911. But in a few minutes, all she needed was to cry. And the source of the whole scene was jealousy. She was jealous of her boyfriend. And these are scenes that happen often. Yeah. But if are not treated, if are not treated in that time, in that moment, and if you don't give the right attention, it might become something very big later on. So there were comments about, why do you give so much attention? But if I did not give that much attention, that girl wouldn't have been able to overcome that issue as she did in a year, because she got the maturity she needed, and she decided that she needed to go on. But being there for her, comforting her, and listening to her, and of course, being a shoulder for her to cry, it helps a lot, especially among teenagers. In regard to adults, adults usually, let's say, are more resistant in showing up how they feel, or when they feel very low. And if you ask how you feel, they would say, oh, I'm fine. But you see from the physical symptoms that a person is not feeling fine. What can you do? Be there for them and listen to them. I think that this is the most important thing, to be there to listen without judging. This is not an easy thing. Reflective listening is very, it's a skill. It is learned. It's not something we are born with. Uh, if you see that this person is feeling this way for more than 2 weeks, then they need, let's say, a professional assistance, and you need to convince them to ask for help. But in the meanwhile, if you see that symptoms come and go, I would highly suggest like online platforms that, like the one that I just suggested, because often people don't, let's say, don't trust other people to tell their issues. They're afraid that things might get, let's say, spread out, and people might misunderstand them, misinterpret them, get a wrong picture about them. So if you listen to somebody that feels stressed or anxious, keep what you heard at that moment and forget, and don't spread out the words you heard.
Okay, that's really great advice. I want to also add another app that I really like for breathing and meditation. It's called Insight Timer. I don't know if you've heard of it, Arbana, but they have so many different like meditations or even courses, and you can even filter by how you're feeling. If you have anxiety or depression, you just click on the topic and it'll give you guided meditations that are 10 minutes long, 20 minutes long, 15 minutes long. So Insight Timer, I can also link it in the comments. Okay, I know that you are so busy, and I don't want to take up much more of your time, but I just want to address COVID and the stress that, it put on students. Can you just tell me any thoughts you have on that time period? Did you see an increase in stress amongst your students? How did you help them deal with it? I mean, these are very odd times we're in, so I imagine
Yeah.
as a school psychologist, that was really challenging for you and your students. So any insight you have on COVID-related stress?
Well, we already celebrated uh, a year with COVID, and it seems really unbelievable where we were, what we were doing before it, and now we have the time before and after COVID. At the beginning, I believe that it was really unbelievable of what we were going through, because it was very far away in China. And the next day, we found out, because my hometown was the first quarantined, because the first case with COVID was uh, found in my hometown.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I mean for the North Macedonia part. So uh, I think at the beginning, students found it some kind as a game, because it was almost it was spring, and maybe they needed some time off from school, and they appreciated that we were quarantined and we were not going regularly. But later on, as we found out that the school year was going to end, like with online learning, that was pretty difficult, not only for the students but for us as well as staff. Learning that we were going to start the next year also with social distancing and with online learning was another difficult issue we faced. But I think we have done a good job, when we say we as a society, in trying to comprehend how to live with COVID-19. It hasn't been easy, and it should not be easy, because this is a new life, a new beginning, a new way we are trying to learn how to deal with. As for myself, I think that the beginning of the pandemic, I tried to see it as an opportunity to focus more on digital citizenship in regard to, because this was something that was uh, trying to be the new, let's say, the future of our school life. Um, in this, and I will have to mention University of the People again. It is where I learned about Wakelet, which is a very unique platform and offers so many opportunities. And I learned that from a peer in one of the courses. So I started to search about what Wakelet was, and I became a mentor of the Wakelet Student Ambassador Program. So I trained over 25 students to become Wakelet ambassadors at the time of the pandemic. And this was a great time for students and for me to be involved and to use that period as something that we were growing and we were learning, instead of seeing it as something pessimistic and um, a bad thing. Because if you saw it, it really was a bad thing.
Yeah.
But what I have to say is that we need to give positive and optimistic examples, and that's what I try to do. I think that the consequences from COVID in our mental health are just starting to be seen, because so far we were all oriented to be physically healthy, and that was our priority, to get the vaccine and to have less casualties. But now, as we are starting to manage that part of the pandemic post, uh, uh, our next priority should be mental health, because now it will be the time that we need to focus on how to help ourselves to deal with what we already deal with, and we just needed to go through it just to survive.
Right.
So I believe that institutions, schools need to make, let's say, to have professional and mental health professionals uh, to be there for their employees, to be there for their teachers in schools, because um, I in 700 students or 1,000 students, one psychologist is not enough now. It was maybe enough before the pandemic, but now we need to make greater efforts to
Yeah.
include mental health professionals in our institutions.
Okay, wow. Arbana, I mean, we could go on and on and on, but I don't want to take up any of your time. I do want to stress, though, to everyone that I do think it's important that we do speak about mental health more. If anyone has any questions, you're more than welcome to comment below, and we'll do our best to answer them. We'll put those links in there, one to Insight Timer and one to 7 Cups. So I'll do that as soon as the live is over. But this was the best way to launch a wellness talk series. I'm so grateful and fortunate that you joined me today, Arbana. You are such a wealth of
Thank you.
knowledge, and your school, your children, everyone's so lucky to have you around. You're such a ray of sunlight. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I highly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, this was really great. I'm very pleased with how much information you've given us and how people are interacting. So, by the way, if there's any students out there who want to participate in these talks, like Arbana has set the bar quite high, I must say. But please comment below and let us know if you're in the wellness field. I saw somebody's a Reiki. That's really cool. I thought maybe we could do a natural health segment that could be interesting. So yeah, we're open to collaborations, of course. So Arbana, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Best
Jessica.
of luck to you, and thank you to our viewers for joining. Everybody have a lovely day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.